Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to Alumni Reunion. My name is Marco Falco, and I am a proud alumnus of the Faculty of Arts and Science, the Department of English in particular. We are so happy to welcome you today to our annual stress-free degree lecture series. As a partner and litigator at a downtown law firm, I cannot stress the importance of my humanities degree to my career in law. The critical thinking skills, the writing and speaking skills that I learned to refine in both my undergraduate and graduate studies were essential to what I do as an appellate litigator each and every single day. For this reason, I think it imperative that U of T alumni give back, not simply through financial contributions, which are important, but with time, through mentorship and connecting with the next generation of professionals and citizens. This is what makes this university great, and this is what makes me a proud alumnus. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Wendat Nation, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. These lectures will provide a great opportunity to learn from some of our leading professors, i.e. Dr. Goldman, on important and current topics without the homework. So let's begin our stress-free degree. I'd like to give you a brief biography of the highly impressive Dr. Goldman. Dr. Goldman is a writer, filmmaker, and English professor at the University of Toronto. Her most recent work examines the connection between shame and stigma, specifically as relates to age. Exploring her subject through the lenses of literature, film, street art, and technology, Dr. Goldman seeks to reimagine marginalized identities while translating her research into accessible narrative forms. The author of 6 books and numerous scholarly articles, Dr. Goldman has contributed chapters to studies of Canadian literature and presented at symposiums around the world. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Goldman.
I'm speaking as if you're my class, and I'm just expecting you to hear me. You gotta say, like, bang your heads. So first of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to come and join me and watch a film. And so I'm gonna do this thing, which is I made this film, and I'm gonna just leave you with very little to hang on to. But I want to ask you, because this is going to be something that I want you to learn from, I'm going to divide you into groups, okay? Very quickly divide you into groups, and each group member will be tracking gently one aspect of the film, okay? So there's going to be the sound, right? The sound effects. There is going to be, and I'll have to keep track of this, you keep me straight, sound effects, right? Costumes, right? What else is there that we should think about? Help me out here. When you're watching a film, dialogue, okay? And what lighting? Okay, I'm going to do shots. Many shots. No. So to talk about, so what did we start with? Sound, costumes, dialogue, shots. Sound, costume, dialogue, shots. Someone wants light? We'll do light. Yeah, sound effects, music. I'm going to lump them together. If you were in my class, I'd have you in 8 groups, okay? But we're doing this stress-free. For me, I don't want to deal with 8 different groups. 4 groups, okay? So, are you ready? Because I'm going to go around and do, this is a class. So if you guys are going to be here, I'm going to give you a number. Okay? Want it down?
This is pathetic, Raymond. Our parents did not flee a bombed-out country so you could live in a hole. Came here to offer you a job.
Thank you. Thank you.
พวกมันนำแท้แน่ว่ามันคือบ่เฮ็ดแลบเนาะ
มือมันหยาบปาดตีนเจค่อยบ่วางใจให้มันทาลิปดอกล่างตีนนี้คือสิได้อยู่
Stop that. He won't cut you, will you? You could take that chair right there.
Guy? Seriously?
Emily, Tess is ready.
มึงฮู้บ่เป็นหยังตีนมันคือเหลืองเพราะว่ามันเหี่ยวใส่หลายตอนมันอาบน้ำ
Hands come with bodies. You can't be turning them 360 degrees. What is this blob of polish supposed to be? You southpaw now? Boxing messed you up so bad you forgot you're right-handed? Tess says she's quitting. Afraid she'll lose another baby. Maybe I can put you on the floor. Show me. Draw a fucking heart.
Just gently. This is not even. That's so tight.
Thank you. Have a nice day. See you soon. กูบอกเข้าใจเรื่องhowขายติดนี่นะการทางเวนผู้ชายเงินได้นั่นหลายกว่า
Manicure?
Yes, please. น้องชายบ่ต้องร่วมปันนังก็ได้
You got those scars fighting? Tess told me you're a famous boxer.
Not famous.
She said you won your first fight when you were 8.
Back home, kids fight. Paid for my big sister to go to school.
I like to see you fight.
Nah, just paint nails. I don't have to worry about getting kicked in the head.
Listen, little brother, you're doing great, but keep your dreams small, the size of a grain of rice. Then you cook it up at night, swallow it, and shit it out in the morning. Keep your dreams small, the size of a grain of rice. Then you cook it up at night, swallow it, and shit it out in the morning. Keep your dreams small, the size of a grain of rice. Keep your dreams small. Keep your dreams small. Keep your dreams small, the size of a grain of rice.
Raymond? Hey,
Hey.
coming from the gym?
You too?
A work thing. Lock me in my car.
Sure.
So, is there a fight tonight?
Just training.
I think I can take you. Well, this is me. It's always nice to see you, Raymond.
Thank you. I mean, I feel the same.
Night.
Right.
can wear gloves, but I don't want you working with the clients until you're completely healed. Understand? Next time, tell me.
Okay.
Raymond. Hey, Raymond. You knocked that flower out on the first round. I told you, little brother. Keep your dreams small. That rich woman isn't going to want a man that does nails. I hate when you get like this. Listen, you work for me now. Okay.
Don't you tell me what dreams I can have. That I can dream at all means something to me. Out of here.
There's a lot of people who are involved. Ton of people involved. And there's a lot of sound at the end too. I'm gonna stop. You can listen to all the sound effects. I know it's rude because it really is sound effects, and a lot of the quality of the film is involved in those low humming sounds. So because I wing it with my students, did everyone feel like winging it by asking a lot of questions and wanting you to be present and thoughtful. So did you feel like you had enough to work with, all 4 groups? Nodding? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, before I ask you for your participation, I'll explain some things that made me want to film this short story. Okay? One thing is I work with at the Center at the University of Toronto for Disability Studies. So all of my filmmaking, and I've done several films, this one most recently, but all of my filmmaking, I adapted a Monroe story about first-person perspective of someone living with dementia. It was my first effort, and I'm really happy with it, and it's got great people in it. So that was about dementia. The second one is a dystopian short story based on a Margaret Atwood story called Torching the Dusties, and it is about a particular kind of vision loss, and I worked with the Center for Vision Loss at York University to make sure it was accurate. And this film was about a lot of things. But one thing it's about is, what is it like to have your life absolutely transformed by a brain injury? So I was lucky enough to work with clinicians and neurologists. And this was a concussion that the protagonist has, Raymond has, that literally ends his career as an athlete. And so I was just blown away by the story that Souvankham Thammavongsa wrote, because the dynamics of that story. What does it mean to have a brain injury? And this is your absolute dream, like absolute becoming a professional boxer that was within inches of getting there. And I wanted to look at how disability does not occur in isolation. We are not disabled. We live in a society and in a community. And I thought it was amazing the way she told the story, which was who was there for him, which is the Lao community. It was his sister. And it's not, oh, my poor baby. It was like, lots of swearing, and you're going to do this. So she becomes a coach. So I thought it was a really interesting and evocative portrayal. Second reason I wanted to do this film is that the Lao community has and I shouldn't say this, it's been very fleetingly represented. Everyone has seen the Vietnam War and the Vietnam story. So I'm going to gently ask, how many people in this audience are Lao? Anyone here? Well, Souvankham Thammavongsa is Lao. She was born in a refugee camp. And she writes about that community. And so filming this was, for me, I'm a pink person, white, pinkish. I knew nothing about the history of Lao. So it involved several years of learning. And also I could not make this film without the partnership of literally the Lao community. So we had Lao dialogue coaches. Every time I was scripting the character, I had to ask basic things. I wanted to give Raymond a pet in his house. And so I talked to my kind of coach and informant, Kamfumi. He was one of the, kind of elders in the Lao community. I said, I'm thinking of giving Raymond a tortoise. And he said, Raymond cannot have a tortoise. I said, well, why not? He said, because we're Buddhists and we do not keep anything in captivity. And he told me a story about his sister who brought a cat home, and her mom screamed and said, no, we don't keep anything. So every step of the way, I was working and learning about a community and a culture. And Chan Kamfumi actually did a behind-the-scenes film of what it was like for him to be involved. And so if you want, it's on my website. So that was the second thing. So the disability, I teach courses in literature about immigration and refugee. So that was really, really important to me. And also, I'm really interested in gender dynamics. I started my career as a women's gender studies prof, and I actually, I set up the first women's gender studies program at UTM. That was my first job. And so the brother-sister dynamic is so unusual because basically, as a male, he should be calling the shots. But because he has a challenge, a disability, he really, really is relying on his big sister. So for me, it was like a trifecta. I was so excited. So that's what brought me to it. And we shot during COVID. And so I'm actually, I'm going to turn off my phone, but I'm going to just pause about my reasons. And then really, I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from the groups and hear what you pulled out of it. Okay? So if you're comfortable, hands up for the number ones. Okay. And so just throw things out that you noticed, okay, from your perspective. Because I think then we can begin to have a discussion, which isn't me just talking at you. It's I noticed this and I couldn't understand it, or I do think it was this, and then we can work together as a class. So group number ones, throw things out. What did you notice? There's no right, no wrong. You notice something. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so there was, we did use a lot of heart sounds. And you know what? I am a director. And the one beautiful thing about filmmaking is you give up control to department heads. So I'm not sure how many people know about the structure of filmmaking, but the sound person came to me with ideas and we dialogued, but their expertise is their expertise. So yes, there was heartbeats synchronized to the clock. And then I always ask, you notice something? Here's my trick about thinking through. How did it make you feel? And anyone can answer that. Like, how did it make you feel to hear that synchronized? Did it get your blood going? Did it make you anxious? Okay. How many people watching this film at times felt anxious? Yeah. So you're on to something. Okay. What else did people notice about? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're going to have to, I tell this to my students, so it's not you, I'm picking out, scream so people can hear you. So the cello? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the rich lady. Yeah, the rich lady. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a mic too, and you're doing really well. So the cello comes in, and then I guess I'm going to ask you. There's what do you notice? How do you feel? The next question is what thought or sort of insight does it give you, right? And then what might you want to say? These are my 4 questions I ask my students. So we're really in a class right now. So you've said, I noticed this. I'm aware that it, so how does the cello make us feel when you hear that, those big, long pulls on a wooden instrument? What did it make you feel?
Well, at the start, it was very intense.
Yeah.
So it kind of gets you up on edge.
Okay, so there's again the anxiety.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to talk about the cello? I went to school with a famous cellist, Afra Hornoy, and she just lives in my body. And this sounds so weird, but I thought I was going to be a concert pianist. I had a Russian piano teacher, and she said, you can decide now if you want to be a normal person or a concert pianist. And the truth is, you can never decide to be a normal person once you've trained to be a concert pianist. So I feel a lot when I hear the cello. It's an instrument that really calls, and it says something very deep and vibrates, right? So it's a lot about longing, you know, and it's a big, big sound. Any other sound? And then we'll move to group 2, because I'm aware we want to hear from all groups, okay? So I have to do my duty as a sheepdog, make sure people get heard. So one other point, and don't be shy, there's no point, we're just learning. Yeah.
I wasn't in group number 1, so I'm cheating. But I really, when there were scenes in the nail salon, I almost felt like, am I tired? Am I hungover? Why is this like the shellac remover drill? Like, why is it so loud? Like, I almost felt like that with like the bright lights, but definitely the sound whenever we were in the nail salon seemed like it was just like up by 50%.
Yes. And so you've seen this guy flat and laid out, and there's all sorts of information. So that buzzing, which is like if you go into a nail salon, you hear it, but it's lifted. Those sounds are in the foreground. So I'm going to just open it up to any cheaters. By the way, you are only a cheater if you use ChatGPT these days. You can do all sorts of things in my classes. But tell me why, what did that do? It made, again, people uncomfortable. But why would I do that to my audience? I like you guys. Why would I be doing that? Yeah.
I think maybe you're trying to show us potentially how he's feeling with this neurological injury and how his stimuli might be really high.
Yeah. So if we're trying to be empathetic and we want to know what someone's world is like, my daughter is neurospicy and she doesn't like to be hugged, and so I have to keep that in my head, because it's not something, I love getting hugs and being hugged. but I'm always trying to convey another world, not necessarily a good world or a bad world, but this is an embodied world. And things are too much, right? So you're hearing a lot. So thank you. So that's part of trying to get inside someone who lives with a brain injury. And you probably noticed it in the boxing scenes and in other scenes as well. Okay, let's move to group 2. And remind me, group 2, what's your job? Costumes. Oh, thank goodness. What did you notice about costumes? Yes.
It's a small country.
Yeah.
Laos is a small country, and because of globalization now, everybody looks North American.
Yeah.
I was in India last year, and exactly this way. That's a big distinction I found.
Okay. So when we're thinking about costume, we're thinking about fit and colors and, what did you notice? I mean, the props were a little bit more evocative of Laos. There's the Buddha that figures, other things that figure. But what did you notice about the costumes? And this is for anyone in group 2 on their bodies. What did you notice? And this isn't a trick question. Yeah.
So I noticed how the transition from his dream as a boxer, and then after the dream, he comes into the salon. I noticed the fit was more sporty, so that was a nice transition on coming out of a dream, but that's the reality, and that's something that he's looking forward to, and that's his passion. So I really like that flow, and then because I noticed afterwards it was more like just a jeans and a regular basic t-shirt,
Yeah.
but that particular transition is what caught my eye.
Yeah, in the final scene, he comes out. And for me, the costume and the colors, I remember being in my house because it was COVID and the costume designer brought racks and racks of clothes. And I wanted to transition from him looking kind of just dumpy in gray to I'm here, I'm choosing to come into this new arena. And I was hoping to sort of say that with some clothes. And it's not fair to make you just think of the costume, but we're trying to bring people to life. The rich girl, what did you notice? I mean, those are kind of obvious markers, but what might you have noticed about her costume? Who was number 2? Or any costume, yeah.
Distinction.
Yes, yeah.
That the clothes.
One of the interesting things, I go to the UK and Britain a lot, and they're really open about class there. They can hear it in your accent in a second. And we in Canada pretend that we don't have class distinctions. Ha, ha, ha. Your handbag, your shoes, everything is a class marker. And his sister tells him, you think a rich lady is going to be this is a Cinderella story that ain't never going to happen, right? And so we were trying to signal class through clothing as well. Any other things before we move on to group 3? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, clothing.
The man in the white suit.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yellow
contrast
feet.
between
Yeah.
his look and his feet, the look of his feet,
Yeah.
and just him in that scenario, looking very like an Italian Godfather
Yeah.
image.
Such a nice man, by the way. So sweet. We had no idea we were going to encrust his feet with yellow chalk. And
Right.
yeah. Thank you so much. And the other point that was of interest to me because of disability and health studies is that and this is off you're noticing, but the yellow feet, Raymond gets warts. There's harsh chemicals, the nail dust and the acrylic. There's a very fleeting reference. She doesn't want to lose another child. Working in a nail salon is really hard and toxic work. And there's been some really incredibly powerful exposés about how this very precarious group of people, often Vietnamese, not very often Lao, are really bearing the brunt of our toxic addiction to beauty. So that was something that comes through, and it's not foregrounded, but it's there in the film, about the bodies, even Raymond putting himself out there to be beaten. These women are the boxers of a nail salon. Their bodies are really getting abused. So it wasn't that he gets rescued, he just goes into another ring. Okay, so number 3, group 3. Who's group 3? Come on, group 3. Come on, group 3. We're not finished. Okay, so group 3, you are dialogue. What did you notice about the dialogue? Group 3. The tone of the voice. Who's... Yeah. 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 She is...
Yeah.
She is a tough person. And so it was really fun to direct those two and to work with them. It was, I think, a reach for her to be so tough. She's a very loving actor and person. And I just said, I want it ferocious from you. So then she modulated. But yeah, what's interesting is to escape from Laos. Like, it was the single most bombed country during the Vietnam War. You would imagine it would have been Vietnam, but they dropped all their bombs on Laos.
They had a lot of commando types in there too.
It was a crazy thing, but they had to swim or cross a river to escape. And so I gave them a backstory to think about. And it's true, a lot of people saved each other on that. So they held on to that. So no matter how much they fought, there was always that recognition that they'd saved each other's lives. So there was a huge modulation in tone. Some obvious things about dialogue. Was it in English all the time? Okay, so dialogue, people, what does it mean when you have to read the subtitles? What does that do to you when you have to read subtitles? Because that's what you had to do, right? You had to, and we do that now, but what does it mean you get to, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we thought long and hard about that. We're not going to pretend that this is all in English because it's not. This is another culture that, and I love the snide remarks that they make. You know, it's the out culture that's forced to kind of do all this stuff. And they're just saying, oh, do you know why his feet are yellow? Because he pees. Like, they're just getting by. So we wanted to do, for you to hear Lao spoken, right? That was really important. And again, I was told by the Lao community this is their first representation in Canadian film. And so they were just so happy that their language was being spoken. And I was so happy to hear it and to have a dialogue coach. And I think it really shifts the insider and outsider. Now, English isn't the first thing. You know, you have to understand there are other languages, obvious, but kind of a foreground, background. Other things about the dialogue, yeah. Yes. So who speaks? And what does that say about your power, right? And when you're, literally the word infant means enfants, without language. And I'm really interested as a disability and age studies scholar, who is silenced and who gets to speak. My father was in a wheelchair, and we all have experienced this, where people will completely obliterate the person with the disability and speak to the person pushing the wheel. Like, my dad's right here. Why don't you ask him what he wants for lunch? So I was really interested in that. And the poor actor, he had to do so much with his eyes. I mean, that's a kind of wonderful challenge, but he says nothing. Like, he's the lead and says nothing. And I'm not sure, I felt that was about the power dynamic. And then the final speech that he gives means that his silence meant a lot because, yeah. Oh, he says manicure? Yeah, he's looking at you guys, asking you if you want to come and sit in his chair. Manicure. Yeah.
Hi.
I'm a little curious why you didn't use the word concussion anywhere in the film.
That's a great question. I don't, I mean, my backstory was that he has had many concussions. This is his final concussion. And one of the things in all of the work I do, I try not to throw around medical terms, because if you say, oh, he has a concussion, I'm speaking on my feet. This is what professors do. We sound like, but I'm thinking now, why didn't I not do it? Because I didn't want you to say, aha, he has a concussion. I wanted you to say, wow, is this ever uncomfortable? The noises are coming at me. I didn't want the sort of symbolic medical jargon to kind of allow you to know what was going on. I think the film is a bit destabilizing, and I liked not knowing. That's my preference, but it's a good question. And at the beginning of my previous film, I have the person with the vision problem sitting in a doctor's office saying, the voice, it starts, you have Charles Bonnet syndrome, and many, and I was like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. But thank you, that is a good question. Anyone else want about the dialogue? So who speaks, who doesn't speak, the tone? Okay, what about shots? What do you notice about the shots? Yes, we have a hand up.
In the opening sequence, I think the first shot we see, it's us over his shoulder. And so I think immediately understanding, okay, this movie is about from this person's point of view, and I'm going to be looking over his shoulder the whole time. And then were all these really tight shots of the medal or the trophy, and like quickly to kind of get a sense of like very quickly understanding, okay, this is a professional fighter or boxer. And then when we're in the apartment, the framing where he's laying on the couch and there's that beam of light coming down, it reminded me of Italian Renaissance paintings, like very much like this annunciation, like, okay, something's gonna happen to this character.
His sister's gonna kick his butt.
And then his sister comes in and she's like, all right, get up, let's go. And so then that is the next action. And then like that stuck out to me in the beginning. And then I really loved the shot where before we even see the rich lady, there's the shot of him framed by the pink, and he starts to slightly smile, and then it cuts to her, and you just already, it's like, oh, this is like a beautiful woman coming in.
Yeah, you can make a couple before the couple appears. I really appreciate your reading, and this is the generosity of an audience. We did have a light outside that apartment window. It's a basement apartment, and so it was on full tilt, beaming through. And in fact, not that you're reading the sign in a certain way, and I love your reading. The Annunciation by the Dutch painters are some of the most beautiful images I've ever seen. But we were going for it's too bright. We were doing the concussion, but I love the way you're reading it in multiple ways and seeing it through. This is why I teach, because people will bring a Renaissance painting or an Annunciation to bear on a text, and I would never have gone that direction. So thank you. That was very generous and interesting. What else about shots? Yes. Mm-hmm. There's a word for chiaroscuro, you know, when something, that's the fancy painterly term, where you're dealing with, like Rembrandt does that, you know, everything's really dark and everything's really bright. And I was thinking about it, I mean, these are all my signifiers or thoughts around it. And before I open my mouth, so what does that difference mean to you or suggest to you that things are dark? You suggested it seems like a potentially positive shift. What do other people think about the dark sort of scenes of him in the fight, sweat glistening, sort of gladiator stuff, and then we move to this other pink space? Yeah.
I don't want to take up
too much. I think I don't need the microphone. I can hear loud.
You're the talkative person in the class. It's
I
okay.
am,
There's
yeah.
always one. Come to my office hour.
Sure. I think because later on you see this fantasy sequence with the rich woman and him, and they're both in the boxing clothes and the money confetti. After seeing that, to me, the initial fight sequence feels partially like a memory, but also partially like a fantasy. So there's this interiority to those scenes, and it's dark, and there's something like within himself. And then these other scenes where he's in the salon, that feels very much him out in the world and being seen by other people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how people read things. And I didn't make this. You can't make a film with 20 other people who are department heads and think you have control over it. It's a kind of offering that gets a bit of direction. But I have to say, we were out in the world. We were in Etobicoke. We rented this lovely woman's nail salon. And it is that. He's a fish out of water, and he is a man in a pink domain. So I was kind of doing, from my understanding of it, is what is it like for someone who has lived in a gym and just had that routine coming out into this other space. And my favorite is, and being handed a broom. Can you meet? And I shouldn't be laughing. It's just, and I'm going to tell you frank stories because that's the kind of teacher I am. So this is a sad story. Okay, get ready. It is a true and sad story. My husband, who was in philosophy and then was in administration, about 7 years ago, he had an eye operation to correct something, and he went totally blind. So very, very sad. So he had his life disrupted. But what you see sometimes is people who are in control and have mastery, they fall out of it, they deal with that kind of loss, and then they kind of build a new world. And so for me, I didn't want to make this look easy. I wasn't kind of compelled by my husband's journey to do this film. If anything, it was the previous film that I did. But I think we all experience being thrown out of our interior space where we feel we've got control and we're on a route. And then we're just out in this world being given a broom, you know? I think that's part of the life course. We're just never gonna, I work with people who have, various disabilities, live with disabilities, and they say, we look at you guys and we know you're temporarily abled. And so I wanted to make this film not to make light of those transformations that I, kind of lived through, but also to say that, this is possible. It is possible to live through these things. And I don't think I was making a sentimental ending and saying, oh, he's just so happy, but he's ready. There's a stance that he's ready. My poor daughter and husband don't get to speak for themselves. I feel very badly. I've outed them in so many ways. Last, we've got shots. Anyone else, last words on shots or more words on shots that you noticed? Okay, we feel complete. It's getting to be time. Yeah. Yeah, they're available through my website. This one, for whatever reason, I wanted to know where it traveled, so I asked people to write to me if you want to screen it. It is being screened. I'm very happy because I'm a prof. All I want to do is disseminate my research. It's being screened. Does that make you anxious? It's being screened in concussion labs, and clinicians are using it to help people understand what it's like. And absolutely, sure. If you have questions, it's marlene.goldman@utoronto.ca. Let me know. And thank you for being an amazing class. Okay? Amazing class.